when we talk about pricing, we don't even talk about it. And in my opinion, especially for small businesses and especially for businesses owned by women, we need to know this, which is value, that refers to how each person views things and decides whether something is valuable or not. So always think about that. What is the perceived value that my customers have about my product and my service? Always ask that question, and then that is gonna be your starting point to start evaluating. I think starting a business, maybe not making a lot of money is a win, but definitely not losing money is a very big win. So because what, anything that you sell beyond that breaking even point is your profit. And we hear a lot in business about having a very specific goals. Well, if you don't do all this math and if you don't know what is your breaking even point, then you cannot set up your daily, weekly, monthly goals of sales. But if you're in like, oh, I don't know what to do, separate yourself from the business. I know that is your business, but then whenever you're putting prices and when you're doing the value exercise, subconsciously you are putting a price for you, or like, or how much you are worth. And first of all, you're priceless. And second of all, that's so heavy. Like, that's why you can get stuck with your pricing, if you think like that. But if you're like, you know what? Yes, I am the business owner, but I'm separating myself from my business, and this is this thing, and this is me. It's so much easier to get going with all this. So today's class is pricing strategies to grow your business. I think you're here because either you're starting your business or you're already growing your business. I see from the chat, the majority of you already have your business. So this is fantastic because everything that you're going to learn today, you can apply directly to your specific needs. So it's going to be very helpful. What we're gonna go over today, we are gonna do a quick intro, then we're gonna jump right into definitions. It's very important for me that we cover kind of like the general information, the school definition, the dictionary definition of what we're talking about, just because in pricing there is a lot of different moving parts and I need to make sure that we're all on the same page. So that's what we're going to do with the definitions. Then we're going to go into different growth strategies. The idea here for all of us, I'm assuming, is to grow our businesses. So how we can do that. And of course, price, revenue, profits, all that stems from that. And then make sure to stay until the end because we're going to go over very quick, fun, creative 15 ideas for choosing your pricing in case that you're launching a new product or maybe you're relaunching your business and want to get started here. Even though like on paper I have all the requirements, let's say, to teach this class, that's not really why you should pay attention to me. I think once you go through something and you learn from an experience is when you truly understand the concepts because you live them yourself. So let me just give you a quick story because I didn't ended up just owning my agency and being profitable in the first 6 months of launching the agency out of nowhere. I had to go through a long journey to get to that point. And actually, with my first business back home in Colombia, selling cakes. These were delicious cakes. They're called Maria Luisas, in case that anybody here from Latin America knows what I'm talking about. And I started this business because hey, I always have this drive to have my own thing, and I wanted to make money while I was going to college, sorry, high school. And I started in this process, and of course, the first thing that I had to learn was about pricing. It's like, okay, my aunt told me how to bake cakes. A few of my parents' friends wanted me to buy cakes from me, and I had no idea what to charge for. So that's when my dad is an accountant So he sat me down and explained to me all these different concepts. So since a very early age, I've been aware of cost, profit, margins, break-even points, all that good stuff. And I have applied all these different methodologies that then later I learned in my bachelor's and also in my master's. And honestly, what the books teach you is what you should follow when it comes to putting pricing for your products or your services. So how to take full advantage of this class? Write things down. So please grab a pen and paper because we're gonna jump right in to make sure that we get the best of our time here together. So the first definition that I want you to have very clear, and I think it's something that when we talk about pricing, we don't even talk about it. And in my opinion, especially for small businesses and especially for businesses owned by women, we need to know this, which is value, that refers to how each person views things and decides whether something is valuable or not. So value is what you perceive a product of a service. Not much, not really how much it costs, but what you think is good or important. Why this is important? Because you need to know for your own benefit and for the success of your business, the value of what you're providing. Don't get stuck on, oh, but I am, let's say, a fitness instructor and I literally don't even have to pay for anything because I go to people's houses and I already have my equipment from a long time ago, so I can charge very cheaply. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about what costs you to provide your service. I'm talking about what is that perceived value? What is that opinion that your client has about what you have to offer? Um, and this is just as simple as you, for example, going to Walmart to get a mug or going to Target to get a mug. It's this exact same mug, but the perceived value that you perhaps have about going to Target, you're willing to pay those $10 just because it's Target and it has a nice tag or whatever it is, versus when you go to Walmart, you're like, what? A mug, $10? No, forget about it. That's too expensive. I need to buy the one that is $3. So if you really think about it, it's not even much about the actual product itself. It's about how you position your product or your service. And if you are able to realize and capture what your client values your service, because if you are, for example, in nutrition, I see here that in there we are in the legal space. Uh, the benefit that you provide for your clients, actually, it's invaluable. Like, it's so, what you're providing, it's so good for them that I don't want you to get undermined, or I don't want you to set yourself for a really low pricing just because what you think that you're actually using to give your service is not that much. So always think about that. What is the perceived value that my customers have about my product and my service? Always ask that question, and then that is going to be your starting point to start evaluating your pricing. Now, and what is price? Because here I feel like, for example, at one moment when I first launched an advertising agency, I was so scared about putting prices. I was like, oh, this is too expensive. And I gave so much power to the word price. But if you really think about it, price only means it's an exchange to acquire a product of a service. It's is what it's given. It's just something that it's given to in order to receive a product of a service. So don't get too overwhelmed with prices, because if you really think about it, I have something, my client has something. In order for my client or my future client to get it, they just need to give me a price. It's just something to exchange a need for a product. So if you start just being more objective about pricing, you're going to have fun in this class because it's about numbers, it's about growing, and not much about, oh my God, I don't think I should charge this. This is too expensive, or how somebody's going to pay X amount of money for what I do. Right? We're going to think about value. That is the most important thing. And price is just a very objective thing. Now, it's also very important to think about revenue. Why? Because revenue is actually the amount of money that your business is getting in, which is only multiplying the price multiplied by the number of consulting hours or the number of units that you sell. And then profits is that difference of how much the business is making minus all the stuff that I have to spend in order to keep the business going. So that is the financing, the operating, the producing your business, and you have the formula there. And I saw that somebody asked if you were going to get this presentation, and yes, you will. And then costs, that is just the expenses associated with keeping your business running. So there are two different things in business. So you have the fixed costs, which, by the way, I'm sure that all these things I'm just like preaching to a choir, but again, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So you have the fixed costs, which is the rent, insurance, internet, everything. So even if you sell one unit, even if you have one consulting gig, any whatever, you always pay that. And then the variable costs are all those things, materials, labor, personnel, are these things that change, fluctuate depending of the volume of what you sell. So it's extremely important. I think the first step on all this is know your numbers plus your value. Why is that important? Because if you're just starting, or if you're in a process of revamping your business, it's extremely important to know your break-even point. And that's just the point where no profit or loss is made selling your product. And how can you determine that? Then there is a formula. And that's what I'm saying about you knowing your costs, because you need to know your fixed costs, which we already talked about, the variable costs, the things that kind of fluctuate, and then what is the price of your product. Once you know these things, then you go into the formula, which is break-even points in units or in hours. It's equal to your fixed cost divided, and then you have a parenthesis there, is how much you're selling per, like what is your price minus what is that variable cost that gets you. So if you're a consultant, then it will be, okay, I'm charging $200 an hour. My fixed cost, you already come up with your math of by the month, I spend X, Y, and Z in rent, in insurance, and all this, and you break that down by hours so that you know your fixed cost. And then your variable cost, like honestly, whenever I'm doing a consulting, like my only variable cost could be if I have to rent a space to do the consulting meeting, or if I had to print out some paperwork, that type of thing. So when you do that, it's very important to know your break-even point to determine the number of units that you need to sell, or the number of consulting hours that you need to sell to cover all your costs without making a profit or a loss. And as you know, I think starting a business, maybe not making a lot of money is a win, but definitely not losing money is a very big win. So because what, anything that you sell beyond that breaking even point is your profit. And we hear a lot in business about having a very specific goals. Well, if you don't do all this math, and if you don't know what is your breaking even point, then you cannot set up your daily, weekly, monthly goals of sales until you know this information. You can say, oh yeah, I want to sell 10 fitness classes, but is it really what you need in order to break even? So definitely follow this example. I'm doing it with the cake. And again, you're going to have the presentation so that you can do this with your specific business. But let's just go quickly through this example so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So to make the vanilla cakes back then when I was in high school in Colombia, so and honestly probably was cheaper back then. I think I'm just putting this now that I'm reading this, I think these are just numbers for easy math. So the ingredients for making each cake have a cost of $5, and that's my variable cost. I was paying my parents $100 per month for electricity. They were very nice to not charge me for anything else, just the electricity. And then I used to sell the cakes for $15. That was my unit selling price. So the question was, how many cakes do I need to sell to reach the break-even point? So I used the formula, and my fixed cost was $100, which is the electricity. The unit sell, I was selling each unit for $15, and my variable cost of the ingredients, of the packaging, all those things were $5. So 15 minus 5 is 10. So 100 divided by 10, it was 10 cakes. So at that moment, I knew that just to break even, just to pay for the ingredients and to pay my parents, I needed to sell minimum 10 cakes a month. So this is a great way to come up with your monthly goal, but based on real data, based on real information. So then you know from there, it's like, okay, my first week, I'm going to sell 10 cakes. And then I know that everything that comes after that is going to be profit. So you can also test the formula, because we also know that there is this variable cost there. So, okay, if I sell 10 cakes at $15 each, my revenue will be 150. And then 100 goes to the paying electricity, and the 50 goes to the paying the materials for the cake. So there my profit is zero. So then you start kind of like analyzing your profits and playing with it. And then this is the same example, but now I'm changing the number of cakes that I sell. So let's say I sell 21 cakes per month. The math is the exact same. I was very grateful that my parents, regardless of how much cake I was selling, they were only charging me $100. So in this case, if I'm selling more, I know that my cost will be a little bit more expensive, but I'm still having a profit of $110 per month. That's what I take home. Like that was my money to spend and go to the mall and things like that. So really play with the formula. Again, know your numbers, play with the formula to know that break-even point, and that's going to give you a very good starting point to start setting up very clear and specific goals for revenue goals for your business. So how can you so one thing is just to kind of knowing the break even and knowing your price, right? But then the other thing, it's like the saying that there is many ways to get to Rome. I think it's more of a Spanish saying that I'm trying to translate to English. But at the end of the day, we are all here business owners, and we all here get to the same goal of having a profitable business, but we all get there in different ways. So don't think that, oh, because the next fitness coach is doing this, I have to do the same thing. No, because what your offer is very different. What your customers value from you is very different than the next fitness coach. So your pricing strategy could also be different. Could also be the same. Who knows? But I just want you to know that that's the cool thing about math and about just formulas, that you can play with each factor and then see how you see which strategy works best for you. So in this formula that has a lot of things, price, quantity, fixed costs, variable costs, a whole bunch of stuff, then you can be like, what about if I change the price? What could happen? So if we go to the example of selling 21 cakes, well, if I change the price from $15 to $20, then my profit goes up. Oh, but what about if instead of focusing on volume, providing a better cake, I just focus on quantity. So instead of selling 21 cakes, I want to sell 30 cakes. Well, guess what? Here, my profit is $200. So just because I'm working harder, it doesn't mean, and because I'm selling more, it doesn't mean that I'm making more money. So that's why I am so excited about teaching this class, and I love when Charities invite me to teach it, um, because as business owners, we don't have much time, and the little time that we have to focus on these type of things, which by the way, I'm so grateful that you guys are taking time to learn about these things because these are very important things. Um, if you do this formula game, or yeah, it's not a game, but you know what I mean. If you do this, then you can start realizing, well, maybe I just deliver a better product, work a little bit less, and actually make more money than trying to sell 30 cakes and going around like crazy, and I'm actually gonna make less money. So that's the difference between pricing and quantity. This worked for my example. Again, you do it with your example. You could also think about changing my fixed costs. And even if you are a consultant, I run a service-based business, and you still have some like recurring expenses. But hey, if things are tough or if you're in a transition, you can just look at all these different annual memberships or all these different things and be like, hey, what can I cut from here? What can I reduce? Um, and then also changing your fixed costs could be a solution for you right now for whatever it is you're going through. And you're still making a profit selling, keeping it the same price and the same quantity, and you're actually making more profit, um, obviously because you're reducing your costs. Or the other option is reducing your variable cost. So those things, for example, when we first start in the business, or when we're really pumped about something, we may be like, oh, sign up now and I'll give you a welcome bag. Or sometimes you give something extra, and of course that's adding to your price. But maybe you already have a good customer base, or you want to run another campaign, just not giving anything away for free, or not for free, but like as an added value. So there are different ways also to start reducing that variable cost. So definitely, I really encourage you to play with this formula. That way you could see, if you are concentrating more on your profits, then play with this to see, okay, what area could I play with, could I emphasize with to make more profits. The note that I have here that is extremely important is that any change has a consequence. Uh, and those consequences, we're going to look into them right now, because as you grow, other challenges just start emerging. So it's basically you at the beginning it's like making money, and then now you're making money, then you want to make more money, and then you need to make some changes to your strategy, but then there's some consequences of making any change. So that's what we're going to talk about here, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is to grow. So you have three different pricing objectives that you can apply to grow your business. You have the profit oriented, the sales oriented, or the status quo. The profit oriented is that you're going to maximize the net amount you take home. You want to make as much profit as possible. The sales oriented is selling as much as possible, which means increasing your market share. I don't want to sell just to Tampa. I want to sell to Valarico, St. Pete, Ocala. Like, you want to increase your market share, or you want to stay status quo, which is also a good strategy. It's just maintaining a business that is healthy and you're staying competitive. So let's look into these three different objective strategies, and what happens if you modified your price. So you have three different options. So here is, okay, I'm gonna go cheap. I'm gonna actually lower my prices. I'm gonna be the Walmart of whatever you're selling. So in order to make profits, you must sell a lot. You have to keep those variable costs low, and you also need to be very controlling a lot of your fixed costs. So your business has to run like a very well-oiled machine. Everything has to fit just right in to make sure that you're profitable. If you're saying it's status quo with whatever you're doing because it's working, then you have to stay current despite changes. So in your case, if you say, Alina, honestly, my business is doing well, I'm making what I want, um, I'm fine, I don't need to do anything, please do not think that. You have a gold mine in your hands. If you are comfortable and you're good with your business, then we need to keep it going like that. In order for you to keep it going like that, you need to stay current about what's happening, about your customers were saying. You need to start paying attention to everything that they're saying, because there is always external factors that can come and challenge your business. So you need to be very aware and observant of what's happening around you, so that you start like modifying your business as, or not modifying, or just making strategies and making slightly changes to stay current. Because guess what? If you don't listen to your customers, if you don't see what's happening around you, then the competition is always there trying to steal your business. The supply chain, distributors, how business is done is changing all the time. So I don't want you to lose the beautiful thing that you have worked so hard to have right now. And just because your business is doing great, it doesn't mean that you can just sit back and relax. Just keep listening. And then if you modify your price, you say, you know what, I'm going to raise my prices, which in tech, for example, I see that a lot. All my clients are like, okay, how can we do a campaign to just roll out that where we are increasing prices? And that's fine too. What you have to do is justify that value. So that's what we're talking, justify the perceived value of what you're selling. So whether it's the brand, so you want to make sure that whatever name you are attaching your business to is growing, other services are getting better. You can just raise your price just because, oh, everything is very expensive, I'm just going to raise my price. Well, of course, it also depends if your business is very tied to a supply chain and things like that. But if you're in services, for example, then if you are increasing your price, you need to justify that price. And even with high fixed and variable costs, um, there must be a way to maintain them. So just because you increase your price and you increase your value, maybe you give something that is a little bit nicer, then you need to make sure that you can keep up with that. So that's for modifying the price. For modifying the quantity, you're like, okay, you know what? I'm good with what I'm charging, but I want to grow, so I'm gonna change the quantity of how much I sell. Um, and you, for example, were in the model of like selling a lot, but seeing that even selling a lot was making you less profit. So you're like, you know what? I want to just focus on selling few, but doing it really well. So if you do that, then if you want to reduce your quantity, then you definitely need to set a high price, but then you also have to have a product that justifies it. If you want to stay status quo, then what you have to do is, again, just the exact same thing. Just stay current despite changes and just keep listening to your customers, the competition, the distributors, just to maintain where you are. And then if you actually were in the model of selling very little to selling a high ticket item to very little people, and now you want to change it to maybe selling it to a lot of people, maybe in a smaller, just reducing the price of your services, that's fine. All you have to do is implement a very effective promotion, because you need quantity. So if you're in a physical place, make sure that you have a high traffic location, or in social media, what you need just a lot of eyes, a lot of visitors. And then you definitely need to maintain a very strong and good and healthy relationship with your suppliers and your distributors. Because if the idea is to sell a lot, then you don't want to promise 1,000 t-shirts and then only realize that your supplier can only give you 10. Um, and then you can also modify the variable cost. So those things that you only pay whenever you are selling the product. So you can reduce costs of those things. So to ensure to profit, ensure that the service and quality are not compromised. So if your customers are already used to something good for you, if you want to modify it, if you want to reduce costs, just ensure that that is not compromised. I always use the exact same example of my husband is a very tall guy, and it's really hard for him to find large, tall shirts, t-shirts. And I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe, I don't know, he found an online shop that was selling really cool, large, tall shirts. So he bought like five, and he was so happy. The quality was amazing. And the company was just starting. The price was good. And then when he ordered the second round, horrible quality, like really bad. Like we put them in like washer and dryer, and the color was like if it wasn't like a brand new shirt, it was horrible. And I'm like, that's what happens. You start with a plan, and then you want to change your strategy, and you reduce the quality of your products, and then you lose a customer for life. So don't do that. And also make sure that you maintain a very good relationship with suppliers and distributors, and not just with one. Having just one good relationship with one supplier, it's really good, but also very risky. So make sure that your network of different people that can supply things to you, it's a good network. Again, status quo, always keep reviewing suppliers and distribution. And if you want to increase your cost, you actually want to improve quality, um, then you have to have an effective promotion to present this new look, a rebrand, a reintroduction of the product on the market, or introducing just a brand new product in itself. And you can also do modifying the fixed costs. So if you say, okay, I'm skipping rent, just analyze the type of product or service that you sell to see where this fits for you. You also need to understand customer expectations. If you already have existing customers that are expecting different things from you, if you're making big changes, you have to communicate this correctly. And then also consider personality and preferences to stay status quo. Again, relevant, stay relevant despite changes outside of them in the market. So always be out for what's going on outside so that you can continue to be relevant with your customers. And then if maybe you're thinking about an expansion, which is fantastic, and if you're in that stage, congrats, then you definitely have to have a very well-defined strategy in all aspects. So I know this was a lot, and thank you for staying through all of this business talk. I try to make it as fun as possible, and now we're going into the fun 15 ideas. But I just want to give you a quick summary. 100%. Know your numbers, know your break-even point. Do your profit analysis, play with the formula, see if you're in this stage where like, do I change the price? What do I do? Just get your numbers, play with the formula, and that will give you a clear goal for you to do. And remember that you have different growth strategies: profit-oriented, sales-oriented, or status quo. And then once you pick one of those objectives, then you also have to decide, okay, what do I want to modify? Prices, quantity, costs, and based on that, you can come up with your pricing strategy. Inspiration for practicing for pricing strategies. So number one, view your business as an entity, not as a person, not as your baby, not as your thing. That way you avoid equating your business to yourself as a person. And that was like mine. I put that idea out because that's what I had to learn the hard way in order to be comfortable charging what I'm charging with the agency. And um, I say especially women because I talk a lot with people in the industry, and I mean I worked in the tech space since 2015, so with a lot of men. And I don't know if men have that same perception as we do, but we're a little bit more self-conscious, or I was self-conscious. If that's not your case, hey, you're doing fantastic. But if you're in like, oh, I don't know what to do, Separate yourself from the business. I know that is your business, but then whenever you're putting prices and when you're doing the value exercise, subconsciously you are putting a price for you, or like, oh, how much you are worth. And first of all, you're priceless. And second of all, that's so heavy. Like, that's why you can get stuck with your pricing, if you think like that. But if you're like, you know what? Yes, I am the business owner, but I'm separating myself from my business, and this is this thing, and this is me. It's so much easier to get going with all this. The other thing is reflect on your buying experience and put yourself in your customer's shoes. It's all about them. It's not about you. I'm sorry to tell you. And it's hard for us as small business owners to realize that. And I immediately notice when I see like experienced small business owners and not, because the very small ones, they're like, oh, and I this and I that, and like we're trying to like say a lot of things about ourselves, when others are just directly like, hey, how can I help you? What's going on with you? This is what I have for you to offer. The most important person is your customer. So put yourself in your customer's shoes and think, if I am my customer, why would I want? 3, set a numerical goal and work towards a number. That could also be a very simple thing. If you do the break-even point, and if you do all this formula, and then if you say yourself, you know what, I want to make X amount of money as a profit, then you work towards that every month. Every month, work towards that. 4, find a starting point based on your salary or budget and add an increase, and then do the math to determine how much you want to earn, especially for consultants, or especially for people that want to leave their full-time job. So do that, and then you can come up with how much you should charge per consulting hour. Don't let your only way to attract customers be price. If your customer comes to visit you for price, they will also leave you for price. If you concentrate everything and come, I'm the cheapest, whenever somebody from Asia come and offers an even cheaper price, well, all your customers are gonna go there, because what your customers value is low price. So be mindful of that. You can do a mix, but just don't focus only on that. Don't set a price only based on the mathematical response, but consider what the audience feels and thinks about the product and service, the value. So this is what I was telling you. Every individual can have a different opinion about value, because they're all unique and they'll think differently. So ask yourself, what's the value my customers see in my business? And whenever you ask that question, you sometimes are surprised, because you think, oh, they come for me because I give them this report, or because of whatever. And you will be surprised, like, I always go to you because you answer my emails quickly, or because you always have a good positive attitude, or who knows what. So make sure to ask that question to your customers. 7, reduce friction points and raise your price. I love this one. Look for ways to eliminate restrictions and obstacles to facilitate your audience product purchase. So that's what you see a lot. Zero financing, all inclusive, free shipping. So we talked about maybe a strategy was to raise your price. Do that and eliminate any friction point that they could have. Hey, give me this price, pay me this much, and I'll bring it to your house. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't even have to lift a finger. The more friction points you eliminate, the happier the customer will be and the more money they will give you. Be very careful about relying too heavily on the magic word free. So yeah, sure, free webinar, free masterclass, which I'm gonna invite you to a free masterclass at the end of this class. But just don't rely on it too heavily. Have a streamlined price list. Having just one price or an all-inclusive price is great. This is what worked for me in my agency, because in the agency world, when I was the client, it's like, okay, well, if you want video, I charge you this much. If you want this, I will charge you this much. So then my company was hesitant to hire agencies, because they didn't know how much they were going to pay each month. And as a big business, you need to know what you're spending. So when I launched the agency and I told all my clients, you pay me a flat fee and includes everything. Now I knew the amount of time it was going to take me, so I took it into consideration. But that was one of the hooks that I got all of them, because they knew that regardless of their needs, they were going to pay me the exact same amount of money each month. And also, really cool thing, it was only for 3 months. So every 3 months, we have a pricing. I don't call it a pricing. We have a strategy meeting, where if the scope of work increases, then the monthly fee also increases or decreases sometimes, which is, I'm fine with that too. Create a lower or higher tier of the product or service to make it easier for people to compare and choose. So this is awesome. I think I see a boutique here. So you could have your top three products, and then you put an expensive, a middle, and a cheaper one, and you run a campaign, and see like which one your customers are more excited about to buy. Use ChatGPT. I actually have a class. I'm sure that, I mean, this class is from 2013, so it's been quite a while, but I think the basics is still there. So if you're leveraging ChatGPT, you should. And if you scan that QR code, it will take you to a class on how I explain how to use it correctly. Trial periods to establish daily habits in people at a reduced price. This is fantastic. A lot of yoga, for example. So the first 30 days for $30. That way you get them hooked and it's in your daily habits. So then if they did it for 30 days, they definitely want to go back on the day 31. So these trial periods are amazing. Don't do it for free. 30 for 30 or something like that. But this is a great idea. Create bundles. Learn from the best. McDonald's, they're doing all these the meals. So you put one price, you put the three things that you want people to buy, and you create your bundle. Set deadlines. This is a good one, especially in the consulting world. Here is my quote, it's only valid for 30 days. Or here is this program, it's only up for 7 days. Or when you give people deadlines, just like in real life, when you're like, hey, you need to finish this by this day, you make sure that you get it done. And then the last one, just like a marketing cool thing, odd even pricing is a tactic where odd prices like $9.99 are used to connotate deals, and even prices like $1,000 are used to imply quality. Okay, so we have 5 minutes. Let's do a quick recap. So the objective of today's session was to learn about pricing strategies to grow your business. So you have a lot of homework, and I hope you do it, please. You already sat through this class, so might as well make the best out of it and understand your numbers, choose your growth strategy, consider the consequences of each change, and look at the pricing ideas, which is 15, not 16. I need to change that. And then remember to define the meaning of your value. That is, thank you for the opportunity. I'm reading the comments that it was useful, and that's all it matters, that we had a productive time.